Billy.
Yep.
Peter Wright, good of you to join us too, Peter. How many more rule changes can we have to stop the Tigers? Stand on the mark is affecting them. And boys, this high-scoring game is going to plan not. Well, I've actually enjoyed it, Peter, to be honest. I've enjoyed the fact that we're still getting a few of those games. You would agree tonight was very much a sort of game we've looked at as being typical of the way football's gone. But we are getting more shootouts and high-scoring games. I think that it's certainly a wider variation of sorts of games we're getting now, don't you think?
I've got to say that tonight's game was, as much as it was a real arm wrestle and exactly what you'd expect, and almost if you had to predict the final scores, most people would have been in that sort of range, give or take a couple of goals, yes. But for all of that, there was still plenty of free-flowing football where teams were going from one end of the ground to the other. Yeah, the defences stood up, but it's not as though we got this score as a result of congestion. If anything, the only thing that held scoring back tonight was probably the dewy condition.
Yeah, I've got to admit, I was thinking the other day, I'd almost like to see. I wouldn't really. I'd almost like to see football played without the rule changes, just to see if it would be a bit more attacking anyway. Because I'm beginning to think, and don't get me wrong, I think the rule changes have been great and they've had a lot to do with it. I don't think they've had 100% to do with it though, and I think a few coaches have decided to sort of draw the line in the sand almost, and almost take the view that defence has gone about as far as it possibly can. And that if we're to take on and beat the likes of Richmond and Geelong, because they are a great defensive side, we have to become more positive, more attacking ourselves. So just, I'd like to see the same playing field almost, just for a few weeks to see if the scores actually were going to go up. But it also, at the same time, no doubt that the man on the mark thing particularly has helped open it up. So it's a convergence of those two things, I think. Do you agree with that, Finey?
I certainly believe that. I agree that the teams that are chasing, and as you say, other sides that have been at the pointy end of the ladder, are looking that the only way to beat them is not to reduce their score, but to increase their own score to beat them. So I think that's a really good point. I don't think anybody is suggesting, we're going to beat Richmond because we're going to keep them to 4 goals less than they normally kick. That would be folly, because Richmond love the strangle game and can always throw Dustin Martin up forward, who's the best one-on-one footballer in the comp. So I agree. I haven't thought of it. But without scratching the surface too much, I think that's a good point, that if you're chasing the best now, I think you can only do it by increasing your output in terms of scoring. So, yes, I agree.
And I personally, I think Sydney sort of showed this to an extent last week. I think a key, we've talked on endlessly on this show and other forums about Richmond's fantastic defensive positioning. I think the only way it's so well honed, I sort of feel like the only way of breaking that down is to move the ball quickly enough so you don't allow them that time to position themselves behind the footy. And I think Sydney were able to do that last week, particularly coming through the middle of the ground with those quick overlap handballs. And I think Port did that pretty well tonight. Probably not so much centrally, more around the outside, but it had the same effect. You can't allow Richmond to have any time to set up, because that's the key to them. I mean, look again tonight, the vital stats, and this is testament to how well drilled Richmond are. They lost the disposals by 20-odd. They lost the inside 50 count by 12. They got smashed for free kicks just quietly. They lost the clearance count by 12. They lost the contested possession by 35. That's a pretty massive number. Marks inside 50. Port took 16 of them. It's a pretty decent amount to just 6 for Richmond. They marginally won the uncontested count, but virtually all those major stats Port have won reasonably convincingly, and yet the margin is 2 points. So they are able to maximise opportunities. They're able to win the ball back, and they're so brilliantly organised on the turnover that they can just smash you on the rebound. They do it brilliantly, and they create goals out of nothing, even when the ball is bobbling around their inside 50, seemingly doing very little.